The skies over Earth were quiet, but deep in the vastness of space, something massive approached. The Draconian fleet, known throughout the galaxy as one of the most powerful forces, had set its course for Earth. The fleet's ships, sleek and imposing, glowed with energy as they traveled through space, making their way toward a planet they had never visited before. To the Draconians, Earth was just another world to conquer, another civilization to subdue. But what they didn't know was that Earth was not like the other planets they had conquered. As the fleet entered Earth's orbit, they broadcast a warning to the humans below. Their message was simple: submit or face destruction. The Draconians had never met resistance from any other species. Their ships were equipped with advanced weapons, shields that could withstand nearly any attack, and technology that outclassed anything any other civilization had. The Draconians had never been defeated, and they didn't plan on it happening now. But Earth wasn't the same as the other worlds the Draconians had invaded. The people of Earth were not afraid. Instead of trembling before the mighty Draconian fleet, the leaders of Earth had made an unexpected choice. They did not send armies, nor did they prepare for battle. They simply sent a message back to the Draconians. It read, "You are warned." To the Draconians, it seemed like a joke. How could humans, a relatively young species in the galaxy, possibly challenge them? They had no idea what they were dealing with. The fleet moved closer, their ships now hovering just above the planet. Their commanders looked down at Earth's cities, gleaming under the blue sky, and they smiled. They had seen this before, an advanced species that believed it had a chance, only to be crushed under the might of the Draconian Empire. It was all so predictable. But as the Draconian ships continued to descend, something strange happened. The air around the fleet seemed to shimmer. At first, it was barely noticeable, but soon, every ship in the fleet began to experience technical glitches. Communications between the ships started to crackle, and the once clear view of Earth through the ship's windows began to warp. The fleet's systems, which had never failed before, began to flicker. The fleet's leader, General Zithar, stood on the bridge of the flagship, staring at the screen as the glitches continued. He frowned, his sharp features hardening. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice cold but filled with suspicion. His officers scrambled to check the systems, trying to figure out what was going wrong. "Report," he commanded again. We don't know, sir," one of the officers responded. "It's like the signals are being interfered with. We're losing contact with the other ships. We can't pinpoint the source." Zdar clenched his fists. It made no sense. They were in the heart of space, where no natural phenomenon should cause such problems. He looked out at the Earth below, his eyes narrowing. "Keep the fleet in formation. We continue with the plan." But as the hours passed, the strange phenomenon only grew worse. Ships within the fleet began to vanish from their sensors. At first, it was just one ship, then another, and another. It wasn't as if they had been destroyed. There were no explosions, no debris. They simply disappeared. One by one, the mighty Draconian ships vanished from the fleet's radar, as if they had never existed. Zdar's frustration turned to anger. "Where are they?" he shouted, slamming his fist onto the console. "This is impossible. Find them." But there were no answers. The fleet, which had once been a formidable force of hundreds of ships, was now missing entire sections. Each moment that passed, more ships were lost. Soon, the flagship itself was cut off from the rest of the fleet. It floated in the cold silence of space, surrounded by nothing but the endless void. Back on Earth, the people had no idea what was happening in the skies above them. They had watched in silence as the Draconian fleet entered orbit. But now, with the sudden disappearance of so many ships, they were left in suspense. What had caused it? Was it an accident, or was it something more? The world held its breath. News reports flooded in from around the globe, reporting the strange events unfolding above. Some believed it was a military trick by Earth's governments, but most were left wondering if the Draconians had finally met something they could not conquer. In the vastness of space, the fleet leader, Zithar, could only stare out at the empty expanse where his comrades once floated. Panic had begun to set in among the remaining Draconians. The fear of the unknown crept into their hearts. The fleet, once the most powerful in the galaxy, was slowly vanishing without a trace, and Earth, a planet once thought to be vulnerable and insignificant, had shown the galaxy something it had never seen before. The Draconians had made one mistake. They underestimated humanity. As the Draconian fleet continued to lose ships, confusion spread throughout the remaining forces. General Starr's frustration was palpable. His once mighty fleet, feared by the galaxy, was crumbling before his eyes. Ships vanished without warning, their disappearance leaving only an empty, silent space in their place. The commanders of the Draconian ships could do nothing but stare at their monitors in disbelief. Back on Earth, however, life continued. The planet's leaders were carefully watching the events unfold. The initial shock of the Draconians' arrival had passed, and now the world's governments were grappling with the reality of the situation. Earth had never faced such a powerful enemy before, yet the unexpected events taking place above their heads seemed to suggest that the Draconians were not invincible after all. In the United Nations, a meeting was called to discuss the ongoing crisis. Leaders from every corner of the globe gathered, their faces a mixture of fear and hope. The sight of the Draconian ships in Earth's orbit was terrifying, but the strange disappearance of their ships was even more so. There was no telling what could happen next. "I believe it's time to take action," said President Andrews, a calm and determined woman. Her voice echoed through the room. "The Draconians have made their intentions clear, and they will not stop until they've taken what they want. But we've seen something in the last few hours that may work in our favor. We don't understand it yet, but it's something the Draconians can't control." Her words struck a chord with the gathered leaders. There was a strange confidence in her tone, an unspoken promise that humanity was not as powerless as the galaxy had once believed. While the Draconians were powerful, they were not invincible. "We must stand firm," President Andrews continued. "We can't afford to let them think we are weak. We've been underestimated for far too long." Around the room, heads nodded. The people of Earth had always found strength in unity, and this time would be no different. But the question remained, what could they do to protect themselves from the mighty Draconians? In the quiet of their hidden underground facilities, Earth's brightest minds were at work. Scientists, engineers, and military experts from around the world had come together to investigate the strange phenomenon affecting the Draconian fleet. While no one had concrete answers, there was a growing suspicion that the Earth itself was somehow influencing the disappearance of the ships. But how and why? Dr. Lyle Hart, one of Earth's leading physicists, was one of the few who had a theory. "It's not a weapon. It's not a virus. This is something far older, something that's been lying dormant for centuries beneath our feet. Whatever it is, it's affecting the fabric of space itself. It's bending reality, distorting time." The rest of the team listened in stunned silence. If what Dr. Hart was suggesting was true, then Earth had stumbled upon something far more powerful than any weapon. But how could they control it? Meanwhile, the Draconians, unable to understand what was happening, began to shift their strategy. Starr, still on the flagship, had gathered his remaining officers in a desperate attempt to form a new plan. "We can't keep losing ships," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "We must find the source of this interference. It's not enough to destroy Earth. We must eliminate whatever is causing this." One of his commanders spoke up. "Sir, we've tried everything. We've scanned the planet. We've analyzed every frequency. There's nothing. It's as if the very space around the planet is changing." Zithar slammed his fist down on the table. "Then we will find another way. We will burn Earth to the ground if we have to." But Zithar's confidence was starting to waver. The more his fleet was reduced, the more he realized that Earth was no ordinary planet. His plans to conquer the world seemed impossible now, and his own people were growing restless. Was this a sign of weakness in the mighty Draconian Empire? On the ground below, humanity was preparing for something entirely different. President Andrews addressed the people of Earth in a global broadcast. Her calm voice filled every home, every screen across the planet. We will not submit. We will not fall to fear. The Draconians may have come thinking we were weak, but they have underestimated us. Together, we will stand, and we will protect this world. The message spread like wildfire, bringing a sense of unity to the people of Earth. No one knew exactly what was happening, but they knew that they could not allow their world to be taken without a fight. Earth's defenders stood tall, ready for whatever the Draconians would throw at them. But what they didn't know was that they were facing something far more dangerous than the fleet they could see. The true power lay beneath their feet, in the heart of the planet, and it was only a matter of time before humanity would uncover the full extent of the mystery. As the Draconians continued to struggle with their disappearing fleet, Earth's defenders waited patiently. They knew that they would not be the ones to strike first. The time for that had passed. Now it was Earth's turn to stand firm, and the Draconians would have to decide whether they could overcome the unknown force that had come to defend the planet. Would they retreat, or would they push forward into the unknown, unknowingly walking into a trap they could not escape? The galaxy watched as Earth made its defiant stand, and for the first time in centuries, the Draconians were not certain of victory. The Draconian fleet had once been a symbol of invincibility, a force feared across the galaxy for its advanced technology and overwhelming power. But as hours turned into days, something strange began to happen that no one could explain. Ships continued to vanish from the fleet, one by one, without a trace. The strange phenomenon that had begun as a minor glitch was now spreading, and the Draconian commanders were growing desperate. General Scifi paced back and forth in the command center of his flagship, his face etched with concern. The screens in front of him flickered, and the usual hum of the ship's systems had turned into a disorienting crackle. He gripped the edge of the console with both hands, trying to steady himself. "This cannot be happening," he muttered under his breath. One of his officers, Lieutenant Threx, was the first to speak. "Sir, it's happening again. Another ship has vanished. We have no idea where they went." Scifi turned sharply to face her. "This is impossible. We've scanned the area 100 times. There's no sign of any enemy ships, no sign of anything at all. They just disappear." The officers around him exchanged uneasy glances, all of them aware that this was no ordinary malfunction. Ships weren't simply vanishing. They were being wiped from existence, as though they had never been there at all. Lieutenant Threx hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Sir, perhaps it's the planet. Could Earth's technology be causing this? We've never encountered anything like this before." Star's eyes narrowed. "Earth, a primitive planet with barely any space travel capabilities. Ridiculous. This is not their doing. We are facing something far beyond them, or us." Despite his words, doubt had begun to creep into Star's mind. The Draconian Empire had never faced anything like this before. He had seen entire civilizations crumble before his fleet, but now his own forces were being slowly dismantled without a single shot being fired. What could be causing this? As the days wore on, the situation grew even worse. Entire sectors of the fleet were disappearing. Star issued commands to search for answers, but every attempt to locate the missing ships ended in failure. There were no signs of debris, no floating wreckage, nothing at all. It was as if the ships had been erased from existence. Meanwhile, on Earth, people had begun to notice the strange happenings in space. News channels broadcast images of the massive Draconian fleet, now slowly thinning out, with fewer and fewer ships appearing on radar. Public reactions ranged from shock to confusion. Some people thought it was a hoax. Others believed it was part of a grand plan by Earth's governments. But most of all, there was an underlying sense of wonder. Was this really happening? Was Earth truly causing the Draconians to lose their ships? President Andrews addressed the people of Earth in a live broadcast, her tone steady yet full of resolve. We are witnessing something that has never happened before. The Draconians, who once believed they were unstoppable, are now being thwarted in ways we cannot fully explain. This is not a victory yet. We must remain cautious. But the world stands united, and we will continue to do everything in our power to protect this planet. On the ground, scientists and military experts continued to investigate the strange disappearance of the Draconian ships. Dr. Lyle Hart, who had been one of the first to suggest that the anomaly was tied to Earth itself, was growing more certain with each passing day. "There's something beneath our feet," he explained to a group of scientists. "It's like a force that we don't fully understand. It's been dormant for centuries, but now something has triggered it. It's as if Earth itself is fighting back." The team of scientists worked day and night, trying to uncover the full extent of the anomaly. They had learned that it wasn't just affecting the Draconian fleet, it was affecting space itself. Time and space were bending in ways that didn't make sense, creating distortions that caused ships to disappear without explanation. Meanwhile, the Draconian fleet was on the brink of collapse. Their once pristine ships, the pride of the Empire, were now ghostly husks in the emptiness of space. The remaining commanders were frantic, sending out desperate messages, trying to re-establish contact with their vanished comrades. But there was nothing. No response. Only the eerie silence of space. General Zithar stood alone in the observation deck of his flagship, staring out into the vastness of space. The Earth below was visible in the distance, a beautiful blue marble in the dark. The once feared Draconian fleet, now reduced to only a handful of ships, was hovering in the cold void. Star's mind raced as he tried to make sense of it all. "Why is this happening?" he muttered to himself. "What is Earth hiding? What do they have that can do this?" He had no answers. The fleet was in chaos, and he could feel the weight of the situation crushing him. He had never faced defeat before, never had his fleet been so thoroughly undermined. And the longer this went on, the more he feared that there was no way to stop it. But what the Draconians didn't know was that they were not the only ones affected. The strange force beneath the Earth's surface had begun to stir, and it was not just a defense mechanism. It was something far older, something far more powerful than anyone had anticipated. And as the Draconians continued to lose ships, Earth's mystery was slowly being uncovered. The fate of the Draconian fleet was tied to something that no one fully understood. But one thing was certain: Earth was no longer a planet to be underestimated. As the Draconian fleet's numbers dwindled, a sense of dread filled the hearts of the remaining officers. The galaxy would soon know that even the most powerful empire could be erased, without a single shot fired. The remaining Draconian fleet was now a shadow of its former self. Ships once brimming with confidence and power now drifted through space like ghosts, aimlessly floating in the vast, empty void. General Zar's once proud fleet had been reduced to a mere fraction of its former strength. The disappearance of so many ships was still a mystery, and no matter how many times the fleet attempted to scan the area, there were no answers, only more unanswered questions. On the flagship, Zithar stood in the war room, his hands gripping the edge of the console, his mind racing. His thoughts were scattered, a whirlwind of frustration and disbelief. "We need answers," he said quietly, as if speaking more to himself than to his officers. "This cannot continue." Lieutenant Threx, his most trusted officer, stepped forward. "General, we've been analyzing the readings. Whatever is happening to our ships, it's not a result of any conventional technology. The forces we're dealing with are unlike anything we've encountered." Zvar clenched his fists. "And you think Earth is responsible for this?" His voice had a bitter edge to it. "That primitive world?" Threx nodded. "Yes. We've been looking into the possibility that Earth itself is the source of this interference. It's as if space around the planet is distorting. Whatever is happening, it's rooted in the very fabric of reality itself." Star's eyes narrowed. Impossible. But even as he said the word, doubt lingered in his mind. His fleet, once feared throughout the galaxy, was now facing something it could not understand. And the more ships that vanished, the more the Draconians felt their grip on the situation slipping away. Back on Earth, the people were beginning to sense that they were living through something truly extraordinary. News broadcasts were filled with footage of the Draconian fleet, now diminished and struggling, and scientists had begun to share their theories with the world. Dr. Lyle Hart, the physicist who had first speculated about the planet's strange influence on the Draconians, was growing more confident in his findings. In a live interview, he explained to the public, "What we're witnessing is something far beyond our current understanding of physics. It's not just a matter of advanced technology or weapons. It's something much deeper, something that's been embedded in the planet for eons. Earth is not only defending itself, it's altering the very laws of space and time." His words echoed through every home on Earth, and a quiet awe spread across the globe. People began to believe that something powerful lay beneath their feet, something that had been hidden for ages, waiting for the right moment to emerge. As humanity waited, the Draconians found themselves trapped in a nightmare. The more they tried to regroup, the more their fleet deteriorated. Ships vanished without a trace, and it became clear that whatever force was causing the disappearances was not something they could defeat with their weapons or technology. Zephyr and his officers met in a final desperate attempt to formulate a plan. They knew that if they didn't act quickly, they would lose everything. The thought of retreating, of turning their backs on a planet they had intended to conquer, was unthinkable. But as they discussed their options, the realization began to set in. They had no real understanding of what was happening. And worse, they had no way of stopping it. "We cannot continue like this," Zthar said, his voice thick with frustration. "We need to find out what's causing this anomaly. We need to find the source, or we risk losing everything." As his officers nodded in agreement, the general's thoughts turned to the one question that had been haunting him for days. Why was Earth being protected in such an unimaginable way? The answer, of course, was still out of reach. Back on Earth, the people were starting to unite under the shared belief that they were witnessing something incredible. Humanity, long thought to be insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy, was now standing tall against an empire that had crushed countless civilizations. The Draconians had underestimated the planet, and now they were facing the consequences. President Andrews addressed the people once again, her voice calm but full of determination. "We stand on the edge of something new. The Draconians thought they could take our planet, but they have underestimated us. We have no intention of submitting. Together, we will ensure that Earth remains free." Her words inspired millions. Across the world, people were coming together, not just in defense of their homes, but in a shared belief that humanity could rise to face the challenges ahead. The Draconians had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated the strength of Earth and its people. At the same time, the scientists continued to study the force beneath Earth's surface, trying to uncover more about its nature. The strange energy readings they were detecting seemed to suggest that something was awakening deep inside the planet. No one knew exactly what it was, but it was clear that Earth was far from defenseless. The Draconians, now fully aware that they were facing something far more powerful than they had anticipated, made one final attempt to assert their dominance. Zthar ordered the remaining ships to converge on Earth and launch a full-scale assault. He knew it might be their last chance to salvage the situation. But as the Draconians began to position their ships for the attack, something unexpected happened. A massive pulse of energy shot out from the planet's surface, enveloping the fleet in a brilliant, blinding light. The ships, just moments before ready to strike, found themselves thrown off course, their systems malfunctioning in ways they couldn't comprehend. For the first time since their arrival, the Draconians realized they were no longer in control. And Earth, with its mysterious and powerful force, was now standing tall, unyielding. The fate of the Draconian fleet was no longer in their hands. The galaxy would soon know that Earth was not a planet to be underestimated. The once mighty Draconian fleet, which had conquered countless worlds, was now in chaos. Ships that had been poised to strike Earth were helpless against an unseen force emanating from the planet itself. The brilliant pulse of energy had hit with such power that even their most advanced technology couldn't prevent the damage. Systems short-circuited, weapons failed, and navigational controls spun wildly out of control. The remaining Draconian ships veered off course, their crew members scrambling to regain control. General Scifi, watching the chaos unfold from his command ship, felt his heart sink. He had never faced anything like this before. The energy pulse had been more than a simple defense. It was as if Earth itself had reached out and grabbed hold of the fleet, forcing them to retreat without a single shot being fired. "This is impossible," Scifi muttered, staring at the distorted images on his screens. "We've never faced anything like this. What kind of power could possibly do this?" Around him, his officers struggled to maintain control of their vessels. The once orderly and disciplined Draconian fleet was now a collection of disorganized ships, their systems malfunctioning, and their morale slipping. Some ships had even lost all power, drifting aimlessly in space. The thought of abandoning their mission, of retreating from a planet they had once thought of as an easy conquest, was unthinkable, but it was becoming a real possibility. On Earth, humanity watched in awe as the Draconian fleet seemed to falter. News channels broadcast live footage of the disarray in space, and people around the world began to celebrate. The Earth, against all odds, was standing strong. For the first time, humans felt like they were in control of their own destiny. President Andrews addressed the people once more, her voice steady but filled with pride. "We are witnessing something historic. The Draconians came to conquer us, but they have underestimated the power of this planet and the strength of its people. This is our moment. Together, we stand strong." Her words resonated with millions of people who, until now, had felt helpless in the face of the galactic giants who had threatened their world. The idea that Earth could protect itself was something no one had considered before, but now it was becoming a reality. While the Draconian fleet reeled from the energy pulse, the scientists on Earth worked tirelessly to understand what was happening. Dr. Lyle Hart, whose theories had started the investigation into the planet's mysterious energy, was now more convinced than ever that Earth was far from a defenseless planet. He and his team had been studying the energy readings, and they had discovered something astonishing. "The energy we're detecting," Dr. Hart explained to a group of scientists, "it's coming from deep within the Earth's core. It's not just some form of energy. We believe it's a natural defense mechanism, something that has been lying dormant for eons." He paused, looking around the room at his colleagues. "And it's not just protecting Earth from the Draconians. It's protecting everything on this planet. This power is ancient, far older than any civilization, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen." The implications of his discovery sent a ripple of excitement through the scientific community. Earth was not only capable of defending itself, it had been designed to do so all along. The planet's mysterious power had been lying dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Meanwhile, General Scifi and his officers were struggling to regain control of the situation. They had tried everything, sending out distress signals, attempting to reboot their systems, even trying to contact their homeworld for assistance. But there was no help coming. They were stranded, facing a planet they had no understanding of, with a power they could not comprehend. Scifi paced back and forth in his command center, his mind racing. "We need to understand what's happening," he said, his voice filled with frustration. "Whatever is going on, it's not something we can fight. This isn't just technology. It's something much older, something that defies everything we know." His second-in-command, Commander Karak, stepped forward. "General, we've tried to analyze the energy readings, but every attempt leads to more confusion. It's as if the energy is alive. It changes, adapts, almost like it's aware of our actions." Scifi stopped pacing and turned to face Karak. "So you're saying we're dealing with a force that can think for itself?" Karak nodded, That's the only explanation we can come up with. And if it's true, we may be facing something far beyond our understanding. Star clenched his fists. Then we're not just fighting a planet. We're fighting something that's been waiting for us. The realization was sobering. The Draconians, who had believed themselves to be the supreme force in the galaxy, were now at the mercy of a power they couldn't even begin to comprehend. On Earth, the mood was one of cautious optimism. People were beginning to believe that Earth could defend itself against the Draconians, but no one knew for sure what the future would hold. Would the energy pulse continue to protect the planet? Would the Draconians finally give up, or would they find a way to overcome Earth's mysterious defenses? For now, humanity could only wait and hope that the strange force beneath their feet would continue to shield them. The world watched with bated breath as the Draconian fleet, battered and broken, retreated further into the void of space. But Earth had shown its strength, and the galaxy was beginning to take notice. As the last remnants of the Draconian fleet drifted away, Star's thoughts were filled with uncertainty. What would happen next? The Draconians had failed in their mission to conquer Earth, but the galaxy was vast, and there were other powers that might not hesitate to challenge the planet's newfound strength. But for now, Earth had won. And that was a victory no one could have predicted. The aftermath of the Draconian fleet's failed invasion was still fresh in the minds of the galaxy's leaders. News of the fleet's unexpected retreat and the mysterious force protecting Earth had spread like wildfire across the stars. Planets and empires, who had once dismissed Earth as a simple, primitive world, now watched with growing interest. What had happened on Earth? And why had the Draconians, mighty conquerors of countless worlds, failed in their attempt to subdue it? Back on Earth, the mood was one of both celebration and curiosity. People across the world celebrated their planet's unexpected triumph, but there was also an undercurrent of unease. No one fully understood what had happened. The strange energy pulse that had stopped the Draconian ships still defied explanation. Scientists worked around the clock, attempting to analyze the data and uncover more about this mysterious force that had so unexpectedly protected them. Dr. Lyle Hart, who had once theorized that Earth might have some hidden power, was now the center of attention. He stood before an audience of scientists, government officials, and military leaders, explaining his latest findings. "What we've discovered," he said, adjusting his glasses, "is that the energy we've been detecting isn't just a defense mechanism. It's a form of intelligence. It's as if Earth itself has been waiting, preparing for something, for a threat we don't yet understand." The room was silent. His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. But the question we must ask ourselves is why? Why now? Why did this energy activate at this moment? And why against the Draconians? A voice from the back of the room spoke up. "Do you believe this energy is connected to the planet's history? Could it be something left behind by an ancient civilization?" Dr. Hart nodded. "It's possible. We've found evidence of ancient structures deep beneath the surface, and some of them appear to be aligned with the energy pulses. This suggests that whoever built these structures may have been aware of the energy's existence and possibly even harnessed it." The more the scientists studied, the more they realized that Earth was not simply a defenseless planet. It was a world that had been shaped by forces far older than human civilization, forces that could protect it from any threat. But as much as they learned, they still didn't fully understand the nature of this power. While Earth worked to uncover more about its own history, the galaxy's attention was focused on the failed invasion. News of the Draconians' failure reached every corner of space, and the reactions were mixed. Some civilizations, once skeptical of humanity's ability to defend itself, were now intrigued. Others, however, were more cautious, unsure of how to react to the new developments. In the Draconian Command Center, General Zithar stood in front of his officers, his expression dark. The retreat from Earth had been a bitter blow, not just to his fleet, but to the Draconian Empire itself. The once feared conquerors of the galaxy had been forced to retreat by an unknown force, and they had no answers. We have underestimated Earth, Zthar admitted, his voice heavy with frustration. We thought it would be an easy conquest, but now we know it's something much more complicated. One of his officers, Commander Karak, spoke up. General, we still don't understand what happened. The energy pulse, it doesn't fit any of our known theories. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. Zthar nodded. Exactly. And that is what terrifies me. If Earth is capable of something like this, we don't know what else they are capable of. But Zthar's concerns weren't just about Earth. He was now receiving reports from across the galaxy, whispers of other civilizations that were watching Earth's rise with interest. Some were curious, others were fearful. The Draconians' failure had sent a ripple through the galaxy, and some of those ripples were heading straight for Earth. Far from the Draconian Empire, in a distant part of the galaxy, a group of alien diplomats gathered in a sleek, metallic chamber. The news of Earth's survival against the Draconians had reached them as well. The United Solarian Council, a powerful political entity known for its strict neutrality, now faced a dilemma. Earth's defense against the Draconians is a sign of something greater, said the lead diplomat, a tall, silver-skinned Solarian named Utra. We cannot ignore the potential threat that Earth now represents. If they are able to defend themselves so effectively against the Draconians, what else are they capable of? Another diplomat, a soft-spoken Fendarian named Zur, spoke up. We cannot act out of fear. The Draconians have been too aggressive in their attempts to conquer, and Earth's defense is merely a reflection of their own desperation. Yitra turned to face Zor. We are not acting out of fear, Zor. We are acting out of caution. The galaxy is a fragile place, and if Earth has tapped into something beyond our understanding, it could change the balance of power. The debate raged on, with many voices agreeing that Earth's newfound strength should be watched closely. The idea of a planet that had once been seen as insignificant now being capable of defending itself against an empire as mighty as the Draconians had sparked a great deal of concern. Some civilizations began to make plans to learn more about Earth, while others began to consider their own defenses. Back on Earth, humanity remained in awe of their survival. The government worked to bolster the planet's defenses, even as scientists delved deeper into understanding the mysterious energy that had protected them. President Andrews, aware that Earth's place in the galaxy had irrevocably changed, addressed the people once again. Today, we stand stronger than ever before. We have proven that Earth will not be subdued. But the galaxy is vast, and we must be prepared. We do not know what challenges lie ahead, but we will face them with strength and unity. Her words gave hope to billions, but deep down, many knew that this victory was only the beginning. Earth had shown it could protect itself, but what would happen when the galaxy took notice of this small, powerful world? Would Earth stand strong against new threats, or would the mysterious force beneath its surface become something they couldn't control? The galaxy was watching, and Earth's future was now uncertain. The events surrounding the Draconian fleet's failed invasion of Earth had shaken the galaxy to its core. What had once seemed like a simple, isolated world now stood as a symbol of strength and mystery. Earth had defied the odds, defending itself against one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy with a force that no one, not even the Draconians, could explain. The galaxy watched, divided between curiosity, fear, and awe. In the days following the retreat of the Draconians, Earth's government remained on high alert. President Andrews, along with her advisors and military leaders, had met numerous times to discuss the future. What they had once thought was an isolated attack was now a new chapter in their history. Earth had proven that it was not a target to be easily conquered, but how long would that protection last? Dr. Lyle Hart, still at the center of Earth's scientific community, had spent every waking moment researching the mysterious energy that had protected Earth from the Draconian fleet. The more he studied it, the more questions arose. Was it some kind of ancient technology? Or was it something far more profound? A natural, living force that had been dormant for millennia, waiting for Earth to need it. There's still so much we don't understand, Dr. Hart said to a group of government officials. The energy seems to respond to external threats, but why? What triggers it, and why did it choose to act against the Draconians? He paused, adjusting his glasses. We have theories, but we're nowhere near an answer. What we do know is that Earth is not the same place it once was. Something inside this planet has changed. His words lingered in the room, and the officials exchanged uneasy looks. Earth was no longer the same. The rest of the galaxy had seen its power firsthand. The question was no longer whether Earth could defend itself. It was whether Earth would become a target for other forces, drawn by the planet's newfound strength. Meanwhile, General Zithar, recovering from his fleet's failed invasion, could not shake the feeling that something had gone terribly wrong. The Draconians had underestimated Earth, but that was only part of the problem. They had no answers, and no one in the Empire had any idea what had happened during the invasion. His reports had only led to more questions, and he had been ordered to lay low, to regroup and report his findings to the Imperial Council. The thought of facing a planet like Earth again terrified him. He had seen it firsthand. Earth's power was unlike anything the Draconians had ever encountered. And the worst part, no one knew what else Earth was capable of. Back on Earth, the world's governments had begun to prepare for every possible outcome. The Draconians were not the only power in the galaxy, and President Andrews knew that other civilizations would be watching. Some may even see Earth's newfound strength as a threat. The galaxy had always been a place of uneasy alliances and silent rivalries, and now Earth had become a key player in this delicate balance. We cannot afford to let our guard down, President Andrews said during an emergency meeting with world leaders. We've seen that Earth can defend itself, but we must continue to prepare. Other empires will now look at us with different eyes. We need to be ready. Military units were put on high alert, and Earth's space agencies worked tirelessly to strengthen its defenses. New technologies were being developed, and research into the mysterious energy beneath Earth's surface accelerated. Humanity was determined to stand its ground, but no one could predict how the galaxy would respond to their newfound position. Meanwhile, word of Earth's unexpected strength had spread across the galaxy, reaching the ears of many civilizations. Some, like the peaceful Lihari, a race of scholars, viewed Earth's potential with hope. They saw the planet as a new ally, a potential force for good in the galaxy. Others, like the war-hungry Borak, saw Earth as a prize to be claimed. The galaxy had long been a place of competition, and Earth's survival against the Draconians had sent a message to everyone. Earth would not be an easy conquest. On the neutral world of Solora, the leaders of the United Solorian Council convened to discuss the implications of Earth's new role. Yitra, the diplomat who had previously expressed caution about Earth, now stood at the head of the council. We cannot ignore the growing strength of Earth, Yitra said, his silver skin reflecting the light of the council chamber. The Draconians have failed, and we must understand why. Is this energy they control something that could change the galaxy, or is it a force we cannot predict? Zor, the Fendarian diplomat, voiced a different concern. We should not be so quick to assume that Earth's power is a force for peace. What if it is something more dangerous? The Draconians failed, but what if others are not so willing to retreat? The council deliberated for hours, discussing the potential risks and rewards of engaging with Earth. Some argued that Earth should be treated with respect and offered an alliance, while others pushed for caution. No matter where the council stood, one thing was clear. Earth's place in the galaxy had changed forever. On Earth, the future remained uncertain. The planet had faced an overwhelming threat and emerged victorious, but at what cost? The mysterious energy beneath their feet had shown its power, but what would happen if other empires began to test it? Would Earth continue to be protected, or would the planet's secrets become a target? As the days turned into weeks, the people of Earth stood united, proud of their victory, but also wary of what the future might hold. The galaxy was a vast, unknown place, and Earth had just made its mark. Now, humanity would need to navigate this new chapter with wisdom, strength, and the hope that the mysterious force protecting them would continue to be their shield. The road ahead was uncertain, but Earth had shown the galaxy that it would not be easily defeated. And for the first time in history, the galaxy knew that Earth was not a planet to be ignored. It was a world with untapped power. And the universe would soon learn that Earth was not only a survivor, it was a force to be reckoned with.